Mm-hmm. Okay, there we are. Okay.
Sorry, just give me a sec if you can, so that I can upload it to the emails.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Um, Hello, everyone. Thank you for connecting. It's been a while since I haven't felt, well, I felt kind of like, I don't know, very nervous because it's like the first time that I'll be speaking English basically the entire day. So, and I have this other anxiety talking about stress and anxiety because I will be not just speaking with, a friend or my family members. It's going to be like with different authors and people who I really admire their work. And it's even challenging. But here I am trying to challenge my status quo and do it the best possible way I can. So, with no further interruption from my end, I would love to introduce to you Dr. Lutza Ireland. I'm pretty sure you will love this talk, this conversation, because it mainly this space or this event. There are like five different sessions. It's gonna be, well, we think we will do our best to inspire you. This is a space for HR professionals to thrive, to empower themselves, to believe that what they're doing it's very, very needed in the world. That the reason why we chose to work in HR, it's because of something bigger than just a job. It's a purpose behind it. So with that being said, I know we've been through many hard and difficult time this obviously last almost 2 years, and that's where we had the opportunity to showcase and to be there, and everyone asked and interacted, and we're looking forward to, like, all the managers that were looking forward to work with us because that's where we need, I mean, that's what we do in HR. And something that really it's beautiful regarding COVID, even though I know it's hard to say something come out beautiful, but we're talking about mental health, stress, and anxiety in a very normal way. And that's what I love, especially because I had some issues on my own. And that's why I feel like very, very, I don't know, very touchy with this kind of topics. And there's no more important way to showcase this kind of topics than with Dr. Lutza, who has an incredible guide that you can free download it. I will share the link with you via comments here. So thank you, Dr. Lutza, to give us and as a prize, as a gift, this your time, your precious time, and to guide us to your own guide, which is I was saying to you that is a very friendly, it's very eye catching, it's very intuitive. And I have some questions, but I know also that you have so many things to communicate to our mainly Latin America HR professionals. So the mic is open for you, Dr. Luza.
Thank you so much for your sharing and also for the lovely introduction. I will see if I'm able to share some slides because we are talking about a a guide that is a visual guide that was built on merging evidence-based design principles evidence-based health information with design principles. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you're able to see my slides now.
Yes, we can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you
Thank you.
present it, please? Can you
Yeah,
okay, there you
I
go. It
yeah,
works. Very good. Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. So, about this guide, one thing I find really important to mention is that yes, it is ultimately a book, but it is a social advocacy project that includes a book format, which is based on my PhD outcomes. I was researching how to increase community mental health literacy. with using interactive and visual design principles in a
Mm-hmm.
way that it's quite accessible for the community, both in terms of resources like money, but also in terms of engagement. So it doesn't use big words and jargons and quite harsh language around mental health. And because of that, I really want to express my gratitude to all the people who have helped creating this guide, because we actually surveyed over 100 people from the community when COVID hit, to find out what it is that they wanted to know about stress and anxiety in relation to COVID. And the reason why this project was so important, because we didn't see COVID coming. It all unfolded very, very quickly. And I was still working in private practice as a psychologist. I already finished my PhD, so I had a framework. But all of a sudden, there was this opportunity where psychologists were absolutely overrun with the amount of mental health difficulties in the community with stress and anxiety, because it's very stressful and anxiety provoking to have a pandemic. So I was thinking about the best ways of being able to deliver a framework and some evidence based health information that also honors people's lived experiences. And so, one of the best ways of doing that was actually not through an app, which can take quite a while to develop, but we have developed an interactive PDF with some of the pre existing images and frameworks that were also tested with the community beforehand. And with this guide, it basically has three parts.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is getting to know stress and anxiety. The second one is getting to know your own specific way of experiencing stress and anxiety, because it can be so different. Every person experiences stress and anxiety differently. And then the third part is about enabling people to pack together their bag of tricks or bag of tools. And because we all have different ways of processing information and different needs when it comes to mental health, it was designed in a choose your own adventure guide. And what it means is that if someone wants to read the guide from start to finish, and it's about 114 pages, so even with graphics, it's quite a big read. Or if someone just wants to engage with it for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, they can choose their own path. So wherever you open up the guide, you will
Mm-hmm.
find something that you can engage with, and it can send you to different pathways. And one of the advantages of having an interactive PDF is that people can either use it digitally, but it's still interactive enough to jump between sections and pages, or some other people who are more tactile learners and it's important to be able to touch what they engage with, they can also print out the pages and use it in a very physical way.
Mm-hmm.
So the three modules, the first one educates about how stress and anxiety can be helpful, but also what makes it difficult to manage it. The second part gets people to understand the unique aspects and experiences that can be felt in themselves. And it also helps people understand other people's experiences. So that way we can learn that the way I feel and I experience things might be very different from the way you experience something, even if we experience, for example, stress and anxiety. And it also gives people an opportunity to understand why certain experiences occur in stress and anxiety. For example, most people have an experience of the heart quickening when we feel stressed and anxious. And we can move on to a pathway where we see an experience, then we have an explanation of why that experience evolved to help us, and then also move on to another journey pathway to find different tools to manage that experience in case it's something people find uncomfortable to feel. And then lastly, there are 4 different toolkits that work in a wide range of situations. So the first aid kit is for emergencies when somebody just wants to feel better as quick as possible. The second toolkit is something that can be used more proactively, but also when the anxiety is not necessarily super high. And then the
Okay.
other toolkits are the journey planner that would allow you to understand a bit more about where you would want to go, what the value directions are, what your circumstances are. And the fourth toolkit is the lunchbox, which is in many ways self care and taking care of resilience. And so all of these toolkits add up to many, many different tools, which are paired up with very specific anxiety and stress experiences. And in the end, people are able to develop their own toolkit and have a takeaway page with specific experiences and tools that are unique to them, and that can be used, for example, by putting into your wallet as a reminder, or it could be given to loved ones who may be able to help you by recommending certain tools if they see you behaving in a way that indicates stress or anxiety. Or it can be just used at home, and you can just have a read at your own leisure. And so, Angie, one of your questions when we were talking earlier was, what's good about stress? Is there anything that's good about stress? And the
Yes,
good
please
news
tell
that,
me what is it? What is it? I want to
yes,
find out.
the stress can be very, very useful, and that's why stress was evolved to have in our bodies. And in this book, we are talking about 4 different bodies, as though we have 4 different bodies. Of course, we have one body insofar as our physical flesh and blood experiences are concerned. But in this context, we're just going to imagine that the physical body is our flesh and blood. And as you can maybe see it on the slide, we have our nervous system, we have our skeleton, our flesh and bones. These are all part of the physical body. And the good thing about stress in the physical body, and that's why it was evolved, is that it can signal you, it can let you know if something is not going well. So imagine if you see a poisonous snake. You need to feel stressed, you need to feel anxious, because if you go close and start petting the snake, that's going to be a massive danger for you. So stress signals to you to say something is not okay, watch out. And secondly, stress can signal to others. So if someone sees you being stressed or frightened because you see a snake, then they can, for example, comfort you, come to your help. So that's a signal to them to say support is needed. Or they can also learn from it. So if they see you being afraid of something, being stressed by something, they will probably learn that the thing that you're stressed about is dangerous, and we need to approach it with caution. And lastly, stress is a very important function to get your body ready to act. And you may have heard about the fight, flight, or freeze response. So we tend to fight something where we have a reasonable chance of overcoming it. We tend to go into flight or run away from something if we think that we won't have a chance to defeat it, but we can be faster. But if we think that something is so overwhelming that we won't have a chance to either run away or fight back, then we freeze, which is, imagine in the freezer when you put something in, it just slows down all the reactions and conserves energy. And so this can be the good things about stress, that it can really help you to be ready to tackle the problems. But where it gets, of course, really tricky is that not every stress is good stress. So being stressed in itself is not always helpful. And I think HR professionals need to know that productivity and stress are very, very strongly connected. So if somebody doesn't have enough stress, good stress, to care about what they are doing, then the performance will be very low because there just isn't enough interest to kickstart the motivation. However, if somebody gets so stressed that they get overwhelmed and go into the freeze response, that
Mm-hmm.
stress is also not helpful because it's too high. We are so overwhelmed. We go into what we often call analysis paralysis. It's hard to make decisions. And so productivity is low. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
modulate stress in a way that we have enough adrenaline to care about something, but not so much adrenaline that we get overwhelmed and it gets difficult to to do things that are productive. And so in this guide, we are talking about the four different sides of you with the four bodies: the
Mm-hmm.
physical body, the inner body, which is our thoughts, feelings, the expressive body, which is our interface between ourselves and the environment. This is something that other people can see. And then the
Mm-hmm.
acting body, which is the behaviors that we do. And I may go through quickly just each of these bodies and then give an example of one helpful tip that
Please do.
people
Mm-hmm.
can do.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical body, as we discussed, that's where our fight, flight, and freeze response is. And that's where we have a lot of these physical symptoms of stress and anxiety, like heart rate quickens, breathing quickens, muscles tighten. We may feel dizzy, have chest pains, stomach pains. We may get short of breath, or we may feel incredibly sleepy. And one thing to remember about physical bodies and stress sensitivity is, in fact, we have very different levels of stress sensitivity. So if you imagine that we have a traffic light coding, and green is where people feel okay, stress is quite
Mm-hmm.
optimal, everything is going well, it's pretty neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Medium is when stress is spiking, and so that gets into the danger zone. And high is when stress is so high that we get overwhelmed. So let's imagine that a person with quite typical stress sensitivity goes for a walk in the park. And so they are feeling quite okay, quite neutral. But if they see a snake, their stress will, of course, jump up quite a bit. However, if they notice that it's not a snake, it's just a stick, they will calm down pretty quickly and just go by their day. But that's actually not everyone. And a lot of this is based on people's wiring as to how sensitive they are to stress. So a lot of people who have more um, heightened wiring by nature, they may already be in a state that is quite stressed because there are a lot of stressors in the environment. And so if a person with higher stress sensitivity goes for the same walk in the park and see a snake, the stress doesn't just jump up, it jumps up a lot higher and a lot quicker, and it's already in the red zone where it's easy to get overwhelmed. And even if they notice that it's a stick and not a snake, it can
Mm-hmm.
still take a long time to get back to their baseline, which is their typical everyday norm. And what it means to understand about your stress and other people's stress is that just imagine that if you're someone who can calm down quite quickly, it's easy to make a mistake to think that just because you can calm down quickly, other people can calm down quickly too. So it's just important to remember that some people want to calm down very, very much, but biologically, it takes them a bit longer to get back to their typical level. In case of very, very high stress, it can be up to an hour and a half, for example, to get back to baseline. But if we are looking at our everydays, of course, sometimes it can take days or even weeks to get back to our general level of stress. And what we can do about this, for example, with the physical body, is do some progressive muscle relaxation. And you can download the guide, it's absolutely free. You can find this all in that. But I would like to invite everyone to just do a bit of exercise with this one, and I'm gonna do it with you, so it's not
Okay, sure, I'm ready.
not too funny. Yeah, thank you. So it's about tensing and releasing muscle groups, and just really squeezing your muscles for 3 seconds and then releasing it very quickly. So I just want to show and ask everyone who feels comfortable to try what it's like. So just pull up your shoulders or push it down and just see which one feels like it's stretching your muscles more. And just hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and then release it quickly. So even something like this quick exercise, it may not calm you down completely, and ideally we would go through all the muscle groups, but even that can just give a bit of a sense of grounding to find your physical body again. And now moving on to the inner body, this is where we have our thoughts, our feelings, and our urges, our inner experiences, which are invisible to other people who are just looking at us. And with the inner body, a lot of stress and anxiety thoughts could be, for example, really questioning ourselves, or we might have racing thoughts, black and white thinking, or we start to think about different things that are not related to what we really have to do. We may be daydreaming, we may get distracted. Often the feelings can be that we are quite keyed up or on edge, or we may be just absolutely flooded with emotions, or we may feel like we have a bit of a broken heart, or we may feel quite disconnected from our bodies as though we are just seeing ourselves from the outside. These are all normal stress experiences, even if they are uncomfortable. And some of the urges could be, some people get quite impulsive and impatient when they get stressed. Some others may procrastinate or seek reassurance, ask someone to calm them down. And some other people might withdraw. These are all, again, perfectly natural reactions. And one thing we can do for our inner experiences is to really think about what the things are that we can accept and what are the things that we can change. And this can be very difficult, especially when you work in HR, both as a person and as a professional, because there is a tendency to really care about people. And some of the ways we care about people in HR involve different policies and procedures, which can be influenced by us, but ultimately can be out of our hands. So sometimes when we get really stressed, it's important to just focus on controlling the controllables and really understand what is it that is within your control. And to be fair, other than our own behavior and feelings, which is something that we can control to a certain extent, all the rest we can influence to a larger or smaller degree, but the rest are things that we are concerned about, but we can't immediately influence or control. So sometimes we just need to make our world smaller and focus on ourselves and get our own resilience back. And so the expressive body is what other people can see. And it's especially significant for HR professionals to understand that what we see may not be reflective of what is going on for another person, because the expressive body is about social expressions and they are not uniform at all. So social expressions, what we look like, what our body language looks like, what our facial expressions look like, they influenced by a number of different factors. One of it is what you saw others do. So when we were growing up, we saw how other people express themselves, and often that's the way we tend to express ourselves. Or it's also dependent on what other people taught you. So if, for example, there is an environment that encourages people to smile even when they are stressed, and just so-called put on their happy face, then people are very likely to put on their happy face and pretend that everything is okay, even though things are not okay. It's also influenced by what works in a situation. So, for example, if we have a presentation at 9 a.m., we may feel very stressed, but it's more effective to stay calm, deliver the presentation, and then be a bit more expressive in our own home when we are with people who we know are supportive of our expressions. And of course, the way we express ourselves externally also depends on how our body responds. So, with the fight, flight, or freeze response, whether we got overwhelmed and really tired, or whether we got into a fight mode and we are quite geared up, these will be very different. And culture is also important. So, some cultures are naturally more expressive than others. And when we are talking about natural wiring, we also have to consider neurodiversity, which means that different people by default have very different degrees of facial expressions and gestures that are natural to them. And so, what we can do as a quick tip with the expressive body to really manage what it is that others see is to be able to show your authentic self, if it is, of course, safe, if the circumstances are right, and be able to communicate your needs. So that means a bit of unmasking. So if there is something that is wrong, and you feel like your natural facial expressions or body language would show that, then show it in a way that it feels comfortable for you, so that the environment can get used to what it is you look like when you're stressed, and that will enable them, hopefully, of course, to intervene and support you and share the stressful load that you're going through. And finally, the fourth body is the acting body. So, this is the behaviors, and some of the real stress and anxiety behaviors that we have could be over checking, over researching, trying to control things, over planning. Stimming is self stimulatory behavior. For example, for ADHD and autistic people like myself, we often have these stimming tools, which just helps regulate our nervous systems by repetitive movement. But other people might get quite nitpicky, start to obsess, or seek reassurance. So everybody behaves differently. And lastly, one tip for the acting body is to do some support mapping. So in your personal life, that might be really understanding who is it that can help you and how can they support you. So it could be that someone can provide you emotional support, but they won't be able to provide financial support. Or some people can support you financially, but they won't be able to support you emotionally. Some other people might be very practical, so they will be very helpful with problem solving, but that's what they feel comfortable with. And so it's important to make sure that with our support network, we are clear with who can support us with what and when. And that way, we can make sure that we don't burn out our support network, but we can also build interdependent relationships when we can count on each other and say, if someone needs emotional support from me, then I can feel a lot more free to ask for some practical support for them if that is their language of offering support, because it's a lot more clear that we are supporting each other. Nobody is burdening one another. And finally, for HR professionals, making sure that people have reasonable accommodations at work by way of support is one of the most important things that we can do, because reasonable accommodations are something that can really enable people to work at their best, whether it's something that is a long-term condition or it's a long-term wiring, a different way of wiring, which is really beautiful. For example, with neurodiversity, we
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure that people have reasonable accommodations to be able to do their best at work, because at the moment everybody is stressed. And do remember that when we get into the red zone, then all the rest unfortunately gets really overwhelming, and we just won't be very productive anymore. So this was a bit of an introduction around the guide, and I would be very interested in hearing any questions, comments that you may have.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Lutza. I mean, it was just an amazing session. I had well, it's very interesting to know about how these four bodies interact and they're part of who we are. I like the last part regarding the acting body, because sometimes even on social media we put like a poker face. I mean, it's not our real self, and it's very hard to like say this is not who I am. This is who I really am, and it's frightened to show the world the real you. But if you're holding that back, then it gives you stress, and I don't know how people can sleep. Because it's really stressful. And the same thing happens as HR professionals. We are there to take care of business, to take care of employees, but sometimes we forget that we are also an employee and that we need support. We might want to be the superhero, but we have emotions. We cannot be happy all the time, not even as a not I mean as a person actually. So it's very challenging, but the main thing, I guess, if we want to teach others, is to let them know that we've been through that journey and that it's possible, and we need to respect everyone's time. As you said, we have different stages, right? And those stages are like, maybe for one person could be okay, but you're taking so long. That happened a long time ago. Okay, but that's the way they process that emotion or situation. But as you said, it's very important to acknowledge the fact that not everyone has the same process to overcome different situations. And something that well, less than 2 weeks ago or three, we had like the what the mental health world day, right? It was Sunday, I guess. And it was very nice to see on social media how companies, different companies around the world, usually Fortune 500 companies, had like a very robust program regarding those issues. But we still, as South Americans or underdeveloped countries, emerging countries, we need to learn from those. However, I think you touched something very nice. Culture in our case, sometimes we're not ready to do that. I mean, we need to be aware if our company, if our people are ready to talk about mental health, and that's something that even though we want to do it, we might not be ready, and instead of doing something good, we will be harming you. We will be doing the wrong way, and that's not the real intention. So it is very important. Your guide, it's very nice. And I was going to ask you, do you, regarding those, the toolkit, the first aid, you were mentioning that the first aid kit, it's basically for like when you get a cut or something. I'm talking about physically, illness or physically injuries, and you put a band-aid like immediate. Is it how that works when you feel like a little stress and you just see what activities you have under the first aid kit?
Yeah.
or do you have, can you explain to me, like, where can we use, I mean, I know you said that everyone needs to be their own adventure, but how that does it work for you? I mean, which one do you recommend first, or
Um, it really depends on how much time people have. What I might do
okay.
actually is do another screen share,
Mm-hmm.
because in in the book, when we talk about sharing, sorry, when we talk about managing your own experiences and choosing your own journey, it's really, really difficult to preempt what might suit you. But one thing we did is we made it quite easy for people to find um, where they can get um, where they can get tools to manage their anxiety right now. So if you, for
Mm-hmm.
example, go to what's inside, you
Mm-hmm.
can go to the bag of tools right there, or you can
Yes.
scroll down and have a look there. And right there, you will have an opportunity to go to the tools that will help right there and then to manage your anxiety. And with this one, it will help
Mm-hmm.
you to choose something. So, for example, we looked at
The
progressive
must.
muscle relaxation, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or cold water. That's something that can be very useful as well. Different grounding exercises, and whenever you find something that you're interested in, it also outlines what type of tool is, what type of anxiety level it works best, how long it takes to work, where you can use it, whether you need any resources. So you can just
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I just want to do these quick fixes. And then even with the toolkits, you can say, actually, I wanna know a bit more about um, how to use just general tools, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
browse through the tools as well. But where I would really recommend for people to
Mm-hmm.
start is really partially understanding stress and anxiety, but really mapping out your own experiences. Sorry about the scrolling. I'm just trying to
That's
find.
all right. I'm pretty sure people are already downloading your guide and scrolling too while you speak, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, for example, just because with physical body experiences, with stress and anxiety, it's so common to have cardiovascular system experiences. So, breathing quickens, heart quickens, breathlessness, flushing, blushing, lightheadedness. Is if you, for example, want to learn more about those, you can just go to the part where it explains what it's doing. But if you don't want to know more about it, you can just say, I just want to know what I can do about it. And then these icons outline to you that if you are, for example, experiencing chest pain or tightness, or obviously be careful and ask your doctor's advice. So we don't want to encourage people to not to take care of serious symptoms. But if we know that it's stress related, then you can just say, okay, I've already done progressive muscle relaxation. I'm going to try paced breathing. And then it will take you right to that tool as well. So that's what I mean by choose your own adventure, that pretty much wherever you open the guide, you
Mm-hmm.
will find a pathway that that can help you navigate either a tool or some information.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I love it. Plus it's very friendly, as I said, to the eye, to it's like when you go through the guide, it's like you understand it. It's very well done. I mean, congratulations, because I'm pretty sure it was like a humongous job behind all this 100 over 100 pages. So something that we probably got in mind. I've heard people that happened to me too, that we work better under pressure. So, and we are very productive. So how can we, because at the end, I guess in a short term or midterm, it will give you like some bad consequences. So I don't know how can we manage that now that HR, they have lots of things on their shoulders, and the backpack, literally you have a backpack of a stress, of emotions on your shoulders. I would say sometimes I said not a backpack but a tent, to carry.
Yeah.
So it's huge, sometimes invisible, but it's right there somewhere. So
Mm.
how can we stop, or what is it good to work under pressure? Is it good, because even sometimes on like job posting I see you have to work under pressure, so I don't know
Mm,
if
mm,
it's
mm.
good or
Very
not.
good question. It's Pressure and stress are neither good or bad by themselves. What can make it or break it is the intensity and how long it goes on for. So we can all deal with some stress, even if it's intense stress, if we have time to calm down afterwards. But what often happens, for example, with this pandemic, everybody went on high alert. And I think even now, nearly 2 years on, we're still not back to our baseline of, okay, we can just now relax, because it's still not the end. So what it means is that in many ways, most people have been under quite extreme stress comparatively for over over a year and a half now, with COVID. And that is not pressure that the body can deal with very well. So when it happens that the environment gives us more stress than what is healthy for us, we need to both start to manage the environment as much as we can, and simultaneously start managing ourselves as well if we can't control or manage the environment. And what I mean by that is, just remember when we were talking about this bell curve of stress, to say we are at our optimal level when we have enough stress, when we have enough
Mm-hmm.
pressure to make us care about something and pump some adrenaline. But we can't pump adrenaline indefinitely, because if we do, we're going to have sleep difficulties, we won't be able to relax. So that's why we need to make sure that whenever we get stressed, we make a really conscious effort to manage stress and calm down as much as we possibly can, because the environment is so stressful that it will keep generating pressure, especially nowadays. So sometimes the biggest thing for productivity you can do is actually take out time to not be productive for a while, because only when you are able to calm your nervous system down so you get into that optimal performance zone, only then you can do your best. And when people take on too much and get overwhelmed and overstressed because we want to be there for everybody, for example, the outcome is often that we just get overwhelmed, and it's not good for us and it's not good for the people that we are trying to help either.
Okay, thank you very much for your tip. And basically, as I guess as a conclusion and as a reminder for everyone, I mean, even though we are all different, and we need to accept that we are like that, and we cannot assume that everyone will just face challenges or situations in the way we will do. So empathy is a big word that will be helping as an HR professional see everyone else overcome different situations. and it's really amazing. I mean, as I said, your guide will help not only us as professionals and as human beings, but also I'm pretty sure we can share like different this like these toolkits to our leaders, to our team, and maybe I'm pretty sure maybe many of our let's see, many of the people who are watching this and will get your guide, they will probably translate it, so just make sure you reference Dr. Lutza. So here, for example, Melissa, Tatiana, thank you so much for joining us. Melissa says, I consider it's important as an HR team to seek and promote an environment psychological safety. Yes, where all our employees feel supported and open to bring their authentic selves to work. Yes, they're real you, not the one we want to see or the one they want to project, because that won't be like, forever. It will just fade all of a sudden. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you also, Tatiana. Once again, we HR need to take care of ourselves. Please, we do. And I'm at the order. I mean, now that I have a consultancy company, I'm not as they are. I mean, they are in a company, leading or with a leadership in an HR team. So it's different. Now I'm like trying to see what I can do in order to help them, because I'm not an HR manager. I was one, but I know it's very challenging. So that's why I always try to understand their position. And I'm pretty sure it was very challenging and still challenging. And we need to kind of understand, be patient, and always try to find a solution. So thank you very much for your comments. If you want to I typed in here Dr. Lutza Ireland LinkedIn URL, so you can connect with her. Also, you have her the website where you can download the guide. It's called matrixdh.com, so you can download that too. And then I don't know, Dr. Lutz, I don't know if it's the first time that you had spoken first to a Peruvian with my accent, and then to speak to our audience, which is mainly from Latin America. We have people from Chile, from Costa Rica, from Peru, from Mexico. So, and obviously the good thing about social media is that it's gonna be there. And my internet, it's not working good, but anyways, I hope everyone got a chance to get a good connection from my video. I don't know why it's not good. Dr. Luza, your last words in order to close this special and very touching moment for me. I would really appreciate it if you can inspire us with these last minutes that we have left.
I think for me, I'd like to thank all of you for doing the work that you do, because HR is such an important backbone for an organization. And you all are really working very hard to take care of people's well-being and psychological safety. So I guess the parting word is really to make sure that you do take care of yourself as well, because you are just as important as all of the other people that you are trying to take care of. So please treat yourself with respect and treat yourself the way you are actually treating others.
That's nice. Yes, because we look for the best thing or the best scenario or the best solutions for our employees, but sometimes, as we said, we might forget about us, and we need to acknowledge that if they need us, we need to be good on our own selves in order to help others. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Lutza. I really appreciate your time. This is a gift for me, for everyone who's watching and who will be watching this video too. And just lots of good vibes for you, and always looking forward to read more from you and connect in a very short time. Also, I mean, you have here lots of HR professional friends, colleagues, so you can contact us if whenever you need a chance or whenever you have a chance to come to South America. So
fantastic. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for putting together this beautiful event, and wishing you all well. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.